Welcome back to this series on the 7 habits of highly effective people. We're looking at habit 6, which is synergy today. And synergy is based on the principle of creative cooperation. The operative word there is creative because there are traditional forms of cooperation. Typically, we tend to cooperate with people who are like us. They think like us, they look like us, they talk like us. They have the same educational background, the same ethnic background, the same passions, the same skill sets, and there's really not a whole lot of growth there because we all think and do things alike. There's no movement outside of our norm. Dr. Covey encourages to not simply accept differences, but to leverage them. For example, you could form a team with significantly different skills, views, and even experience. That might sound kind of scary. Now, obviously, if you're in a business or a sports team, you want somebody who's a good pitcher, somebody who's a good outfielder, somebody who is a good fielder. But you don't want people who think radically different about baseball. If you're in a business, you want somebody who's very good in marketing, somebody who's good in finance, somebody who's good in leadership, somebody who is good in production. But you don't want somebody who just doesn't think about the customer, is just focused on the product. So to form a team that has radically different people, really outside the norm, might seem scary. But that's the only way to get truly new ideas. Even people who are so new, you might think they don't have any experience. That's somebody who's so fresh, they might come up with an idea that nobody else on a traditional team would. So synergy is really about leveraging differences, not being afraid of them. Another example is to encourage 360 communications rather than the traditional two-way channels. Typically we get communications top down and bottom up in official organizations, businesses, military units, etc., or maybe lateral communications in marriage and friendships. But 360 communications is top down, bottom up, side to side, from outside the organization, all around you. That might seem scary too, because why would an employer, for example, look to their employees to say how they're doing, to evaluate their leadership? Or why would we look to our kids to say how we're doing as parents? That seems very non-traditional and inappropriate, only if we don't want to hear the real truth. A friend of mine told me that teenagers are God's gifts to parents because they will tell you exactly like it is, at least their perspective on how you're doing as a parent. I remember when my kids were much younger and they said, "Dad, you don't ever sin, you do everything right." And when they got a little bit older as teenagers, they said, "All you do is sin, you don't do anything right." So 360 communications can give us information and opinions and perspectives and possibilities that we never would have considered otherwise. Another example is to allow a level of productive conflict and spontaneous leadership from laity. In other words, don't try to quell every conflict between people on the team, and let people who are not in positions of leadership step up to lead in the moment or for a moment. If you will do those things, you'll find out that instead of trying to hedge things in to keep them exactly the way you want them, which is really maintaining the status quo, new things can erupt. There's an old proverb that says, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens another. Well, when iron sharpens iron, there's going to be some sparks that fly. But without some productive conflict, we can't really improve each other. And without letting some laity, meaning people who are not in official positions of leadership, step in and lead in the moment, we're only going to get things to go the way we want them, again, maintaining the status quo. And that's not synergistic. Because synergy among the whole team builds buy-in and follow-up. When we involve the whole team, parents and kids, employers and employees, leaders and laity, then we get the best of every possibility. And so there's more likely to be buy-in in the leader's vision, and there's more likely to be follow-up with whatever the group discusses because everybody's been involved. So we need to look for those who are truly different. not just tall people looking for short people or old people looking for younger people in business and other types of relationships. But if you're a type A personality, meaning kind of wound tight, want things a certain way, look for somebody who's type B, somebody who's more relaxed and a little more laissez-faire. Now, you might not want to look for somebody on the total extreme opposite of the spectrum, but people who are significantly different. If you're an introvert, look for an extrovert. If you're more concerned about logic, look for people who are concerned about relationships. If you are more concerned about maintaining traditions, look for people who are willing to be creative. You have to seek them out and invite them to join you in specific work. You've got projects to do. You've got goals for your life. You've got passions that are on your heart. When you find these people, ask them to join you in some of those specific things, because you've already got your ideas of what that needs to look like. They will bring other perspectives, other skills, other possibilities that you haven't considered, because in your mind you've already got it mapped out of what right looks like, and they're going to broaden that or shape that or hone it or extend it or fill it out, because they're going to bring more than you have to offer yourself. Lastly, then actually collaborate in that work and learn to enjoy some fireworks. I implied earlier that there's going to be tension. You have to recognize that tension is the beginning of new possibilities. When you see the sparks fly from the iron sharpening the iron, don't let that be a tipping point where you tip back and say, wait, this is not working out. Let that be a tipping point where you lean in and say, wow, something new is about to emerge. Let's see what this is. And let it go for a little bit. As long as it's productive and people are trying to move in positive ways forward, some fireworks are okay. When you can enjoy that, not just tolerate it, but actually enjoy that it is a sign of new things about to crest the horizon, then you'll really begin to enjoy synergy, things beyond what you bring to the table with you, yourself, and your clone, things that are brought to the table by people who are truly different. Hope that makes sense. Tune in next week and we will look at the very last habit, and I hope to see you then.